Hey, what's up everybody? It's Scotty the Marketing Dude back here at CC Power Sports Clarksville, and today we are taking out a few sport cruisers. See them behind me there. We are going to be riding a 2014 Kawasaki Concours, and we are also going to be riding a little bit older, a 2012. You can see it behind me as I awkwardly move around and try and get the camera to not focus on me. I guess it's not going to happen. Anyway, we're riding a 2012 Honda ST1300. I'll give you a little walk around of those before we take them for a ride. So let's check them out. All right, so bike number one that we're going to be taking out is this 2012 Honda ST1300. So unfortunately, I don't believe Honda makes this motorcycle anymore, but I've always kind of had an eye for them. It's just kind of a cool, classic, sport touring bike. And I've always wanted to ride one. I haven't ever had the chance. I just think it's a really cool motor. And pretty excited to ride it today. And while we're at it, I figured we've got kind of Kawasaki's competition to this bike, or what would have been its competition back in the day. So we're going to compare them. I've got this 2014 Concours 14 Kawasaki. And we're going to take it out as well, and I'll kind of let you know what I think about them and what's the good, what maybe is the not so good, and I'll probably tell you at the end which one I prefer. But you know how I am with motorcycles, I tend to like everything that I ride because I just love motorcycling in general, and I'm very happy to call it my job. So anyway, those are what we're going to be riding today. Let's get in the saddle of this 1300, shall we? I'll see you in the rest of the video. All right, and we're off. All right, I already like the power output. So again, we're on the ST1300 first here in our little comparison series. We had such good results from our Goldwing comparison that I was just kind of walking around and I was trying to figure out what we were going to ride. And I've had my eye on this bike for a while because I've always kind of liked them. I mean, look, if you watch this channel enough, you know I'm a Honda guy. I have been basically my entire life. And that carries over from the motocross world to the street bike world. I just love everything they make. I love all bikes, you know that. But Hondas always have a special place in my heart, even if they're maybe necessarily not marketed towards me, or if they're not necessarily what I would ride on a day-to-day basis. But the ST1300, I wish they still made this bike, really, because it's like sporty but comfy. It's kind of like the best of both worlds. It's not a cruiser, but it's got all the touring amenities you would want, except cruise control on this model that we're on today. I did notice, I made note of that. We do not have cruise. But what it does have is a humongous 1300cc V4 engine, which it's really cool. And when you're at when I come up here to this stop, when you rev it, you can kind of feel it pull yourself back and forth. It's almost got like a Moto Guzzi kind of feel, a little bit. I mean, it's definitely subdued. When you ride a Guzzi, I mean, it's like, it's just back and forth, back and forth. You can feel it the whole time. This is a Honda. It runs good and smooth, and it's reliable. This bike's got, let's see, 29,000, almost 30,000 miles on it. It looks like, and as it was sitting out front, I noticed the gentleman was looking at it. Well, it turns out he's actually a previous ST1300 owner. He loves them. He actually sold his ST1300 to Jamie Atkins, one of our salespeople. The legend, if you know Jamie. So he's no stranger to these bikes. He was out looking all over it. I think he may be a little interested in it because his last ST1300 was, he said, a little too tall. Well, this one, he noticed it sits a little lower. I had him swing a leg over it, and it does apparently sit a little lower than his previous one. He had a 2006. This is a 2012. And I will say, me being a 29-inch inseam, I'm almost flat-footing it. So it's really comfortable for me to be sitting here right now, just at a standstill. So that's a really good point of this bike so far. We'll see when we get out on the freeway. I can't wait. I mean, that's what these bikes, they do so well is, higher speed riding and obviously cornering. We don't have a lot of good twisties, unfortunately, on our little route that we do. We've got one little section we'll hit when we get up here. But I'm definitely interested to see how it feels, because it's like, it's so comfortable, but at the same time, it does have a little bit sportier ergonomics. And it's got a big movable windshield. That's another amazing feature. Some of the the tech that's on this bike for its age is pretty amazing. Like I said, it unfortunately doesn't have cruise control, but what it does have is ABS. I noted that as I was kind of walking around it. So you do have ABS. You do have this adjustable windshield, which, look at that. Right up, no problem. Works like a charm. Also, locking bags, and we'll talk about this when I get on the Cowie. But what this bike does that's amazing is the locking bags use the same key as the ignition. So you don't have a bunch of keys to fumble around with and lose, which I do all the time. So the less keys that I can have for a vehicle, the better. In my opinion, it's just less things for me to lose. That's an amazing feature that this bike has. It doesn't have a top pack like the Concours we're gonna ride has. This bike is so comfortable. It really is just super comfortable. Very nice to ride. It's kind of like it's like the Goldwing's sportier cousin. It's like, you could ride this bike with your Goldwing buddies, but what you're going to do on this bike that your Goldwing buddies can't do is you can rip a corner. At least that's my estimation. We'll see when we get it up here in the little corner how it actually leans in. And not that a Goldwing is a bad cornering motorcycle. It certainly has its strengths in that department over other large, tour bikes. Especially in the American V-twin variety, a Goldwing is going to turn circles around one of those. But what you get with a bike like this is you do get a little sportier feel. You get more upright even than a Goldwing seating position. And you get a lighter motorcycle. You don't need reverse on an ST1300. You need reverse on a Goldwing. You don't really need reverse on a Goldwing, but it's a wide motorcycle, and they're a heavy breed, and they take a lot to back up without the reverse button, and the reverse button is definitely a welcome feature on those motorcycles. Like I said, you don't need it on this bike. It's plenty light, and it's really I know why I was looking at them so much. It's amazing. We're just cruising, man. And look at this. Even back in 2012, we've got air temperature gauge. We've got it looks like an engine temp. What else do you need? You got a fuel gauge. You got an old school analog speedo and tach, which I like. I feel like, why reinvent the wheel? Why reinvent the tach or reinvent the speedo? They work great. They're easy to read. Why would you need anything else? The only thing this bike is lacking, and of course it is a 2012, is a cruise control. I would like to have cruise control on this motorcycle, and I'm sure that it was an option. It just unfortunately isn't on the bike that we're on today. But if that's not something that you feel like you absolutely need, or maybe you just want to put the throttle lock thing on there, I don't like those things, I don't trust them, but you could certainly do that. And not that the throttle pull is super hard, like it's not hard to ride this bike and not have cruise control. It's just a nice feature that I'm becoming more and more used to and expecting on motorcycles that I ride. And of course, I ride new motorcycles all the time, so it only makes sense that that's what I would expect, right? All right, we're going to get up here in a little twisty section. And while we're talking about this motorcycle, I guess we should talk about price. So we might as well. Right now, Jose's got this bike marked at, I do believe, $89.99. Don't hold me to that. I'm not a sales guy. I'm just a marketing dude, and my memory is not what it once was. I forget things all the time. But I'm pretty sure this bike is marked at $89.99 right now. So for $9,000, you're getting, a really sporty, nice feeling bike that's going to go 100,000 miles. I talked to that guy who's like he's a ST 1300 lover, and he says they're 100,000 mile bikes, and it's a Honda, so you can totally expect that, Well, I've got a truck in front of me, so I can't really rip this corner, but I can say that it feels really sporty for how big it is. I'm really impressed. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to ride back to the shop. I'm going to kind of take a leisurely stroll, and when we get back, we'll hop on the Cowie Concours 14, and we'll give it a little test and see how it feels. And stay tuned at the end. We'll talk about what I think about these two bikes, who I think they're for, and which one I would purchase. So stay tuned, and I'll see you on the Cowie. All right, now we're out on the Concours. So already I'm noticing a few things that this bike has that the Honda doesn't. We've got heated grips down here. That's a big bonus. I don't remember seeing that on the Honda. Another thing this bike has that the Honda doesn't is, let's see, well, I think that might be it. I don't see cruise control. So, shockingly, no cruise control on this bike either. Oh well. It's not a given or a needed thing, I guess. Oh, you know what it does have? It looks like it has some kind of throttle deal on here. I'm not going to use it. I don't like those things. But another thing this thing has that the Honda doesn't, it does have a little more horsepower. So, it's a bump up from the 1300. This thing is a 1400. Shares a lot of the same blood as the ZX14. So definitely a little bit more of a horsepower monster. This thing, I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe it's about 158 horsepower. If I remember right, the Honda that we had just ridden, that was about 125 horsepower. So neither bike is a slouch by any means necessary. Both bikes are absolute monster powerhouses when it comes to what they are. I think this bike maybe sounds a little better than the Honda. It's definitely got a little more sport bike blood in it. And I think you can honestly feel that in the handling too. The Honda is a great motorcycle. And it just depends on how much you really want to spend. Like I said, for the money, I think you're getting heated grips. And they're about the same mileage. This thing's got 32,478 miles on it. So they're both, about the same mileage. This bike is $1,000 more. Of course, it's, 2 years newer than the Honda that we just rode, and it's also got, it's got a tour pack on the back. So you got a little more storage space. The one thing, this bike versus the Honda, this bike's got a bag of keys with it. As long as you're responsible and you don't lose keys, no problem. But it does have different keys for the bags. Like I said on the Honda, the ignition key unlocks all of the bags on the bike as well. Of course, this bike doesn't have an ignition key. It's a key fob. So give and take, whatever you want to do there, however you want to look at it. But for me, I probably would lose a lot of those keys, and then those bags wouldn't lock anymore, just being honest. But like I said, this bike does have a little more horsepower. It's a little sportier of a feel. Even the foot pegs are a little higher. It's a little sportier feeling. You still have an adjustable windshield, so we're going to run that up. We'll put our visor down. Yeah, you know, it's a give and take. This bike certainly is sportier feeling than the Honda, but maybe not as comfortable, you know, so it kind of depends on where you want to go there. Are you just in it for the comfort and the smoothness for the long haul, or do you want something that's got a little more pep in it? You know, it's got a little more ponies. This bike's got 20 some odd more ponies than the Honda does, so it's certainly going to be a little sportier. And I got to be honest, I think it might corner a little better. Just even the low-speed stuff we were doing back there. It definitely is a little lighter on turn-in feeling than the Honda was. I mean, you know, there's no getting around that. Both bikes would be incredible. We are asking $99.99 for this bike right now. So like I said, about $1,000 more than the ST1300. It just all depends on, do you want something that's, you know, a couple years newer? Do you want something that's got a little more horsepower? Then maybe this bike is the way to go, the heated grips. But if you're wanting to save $1,000, buy the Honda. You know, I mean, they're both excellent bikes. I think this bike's got a little more buzz, I can feel, into the handlebars. Part of that probably is that Honda that I rode had those big puffy foam grips, which I've always thought were absolutely ridiculous looking. I mean, they look like they belong on, like, you know, a personal watercraft or something. I've always called them jet ski grips. But I will say that may be the factor as to why the bike doesn't have any vibration in the handlebars. I mean, that bike was absolutely smooth on the highway. This bike has the stock Kawasaki grips on it, and I'm definitely getting some buzzing into my wrists. I think this motor probably revs a little higher than the Honda as well. It just naturally feels like it revs more. It's a little lighter spirited off the bottom. You know, when I'm at the stoplights and I can kind of rev it, it has that sport bike zing to it. You know, you can definitely tell this bike's got that ZX14 blood coursing through its veins. It's a little sporty. How many times can I say sporty in one ride review? Jeez, move on to something else. All right. So, you know, in the looks department, I think the bikes both look really similar. The Honda maybe is a little more dated, you know, versus this bike. This bike's got maybe a few more sharper lines on it, but not a lot. You know, there's something to be said about the clean lines of that Honda ST1300. It's very simple, but the air just flows around it. You know, I had no weird buffeting. I've got a little more weirdness on my shoulders with this bike, and that's just really the windshield, and it may be partly the fairing, the way it's shaped. The Honda fairing, the mirrors are all integrated and everything, and it swoops around a bit more, and I feel like it does cut through the air a little more. I've got more air on me on this bike than I did on the Honda. So that's something to notice. If that doesn't really matter to you, or maybe you like having a little more air on you, at certain points I do. Like a beautiful day like today, it doesn't bother me at all. It actually kind of feels nice, you know. But it's something to be noted. Some guys don't like the air at all. They want to be totally like hermetically sealed from the environment, even though they're on a motorcycle. For those guys, maybe the Honda is the way to go. I don't know. It's an interesting comparison because, you know, these bikes are the same market, you know. The Honda's a little smaller engine, but it's no slouch. You don't really need any more than 125 horsepower on a motorcycle, in my opinion. But this bike certainly has a little bit more to give. Yeah, it's certainly more sporty feeling. The motor is really peppy. The brakes are maybe a little stronger. This bike's also going to have ABS, just like the Honda. But I will say the front brake on this bike is quite a bit more responsive. And obviously I'm getting a little more of a real test as to cornering on this bike than I did, unfortunately, on the ST. It just, when I was recording at any rate, there was a truck in front of me and he was going about 10 miles an hour under the speed limit, so what can you do? Yeah, this bike corners great. All right, I'm in love. It doesn't take much, man. I'll tell you what I would do. I would take this bike, I would get the poofy grips off the Honda, and I would put the poofs on here, the jet ski grips, and that's probably about all I would do. Other than that, it feels great. You know, I think the bikes are really, really comparable. It just all kind of comes down to, like, what do you want? Do you want something that's a little more sedated? And I don't say sedated in a bad way. Sometimes you want a bike that's like that, that's just kind of smooth and relaxing, and it's like, you know, it's like a cruise. It's like a cruising sport tour, you know? You just kind of glide. And maybe that's the thing with the Honda, is it's like, it's so refined, it's almost too refined. You know, it's the way a lot of Hondas are. Even like the Goldwing is guilty of that sometimes. You know, it's such a good motorcycle that you forget you're on a motorcycle, if you know what I mean. Whereas this bike has got kind of that, it's like, ooh, it's got a little attitude. You know, whoa, you can feel like you're doing something. You know, you could Rossi this thing if you wanted to. It's an interesting comparison, because they really are very similar in a lot of ways, but then in some ways they depart from each other. So anyway, I'm going to get back to the shop here. Just hold tight, and I'll give my little sign off, and I'll kind of give my final thoughts on the bike. So I'll see you back at the shop. All right. Well, we just got done riding. So as I'm walking out here to them, kind of looking around, I don't know. It's kind of up in the air on which one I like more. I think if I were going to buy one today, probably would be the Kawasaki, and I can't believe I'm saying that as a die-hard Honda wing worshiper. I love everything Honda makes, and I love that ST1300, but you kind of can't look past the extra ponies you get on the Concours 14 for me. It's just so fun and peppy. It doesn't feel like you're on a tour bike at all. So for me personally, I would probably go with the Kawasaki, but maybe if you're looking for something that's a little smoother, check out an ST1300. If you're seeing this on YouTube and you find one on Marketplace, or maybe you're looking at two of them, you know, maybe I helped you out a little bit. Or maybe if you're one of our local customers and you've been thinking about one of these bikes or something like them, come check them out. I mean, at $9 grand for that Honda, that's a killer deal for a bike that's going to go for a really long time, and you're going to be able to have a lot of fun on it. And for an extra $1,000, you could have a lot of fun on this bike too. Both of them are great. That's basically what I found out. I love everything I ride. So anyway, thanks again for watching. It's been Scotty the Marketing Dude, and I'll check you later.